If you're ready to listen to a series of questionable questions, cool. If not, you might want to move on quickly. Brandartica agency partners Peter Jude Ricciardi and Jeff Lukowski talk to CEOs, founders, makers, shakers, and rule breakers to discover what the hell is happening in that 1/7 of their brains that makes them successful, happy, and human. This is 1/7, the podcast.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Kelly. How are you today?
Doing great.
Good.
Doing great. Glad to be here. Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
We got to get right into the business part of it because we've talked before about this, and there's several things that I think are really of interest. Tell us, first of all, a little bit about Local Time Brewery, and let's talk a little bit about the inspiration behind Local Time and how does it connect to travel and your own personal adventures?
Sure. So we actually just celebrated our 1-year anniversary this past Sunday. So we have been open for 12 months now, and have really been embraced by our community here in Holly Springs. We're in central North Carolina. Kelly and I moved down here about a dozen years ago now from New England, and over time, we had talked about running our own business, and more specifically, running a brewery for a number of years. And when the pandemic happened, I was in the midst of a career in consulting and business development, and had always worked for very small companies. And at the time, I had been working really with one other guy, doing a lot of cool projects that were taking me to some unique places globally. And a lot of that dried up, as you would imagine, in the midst of COVID. Not only did the cool projects dry up, but the travel completely evaporated. And travel has always been something that has inspired me, and Kelly and I and our daughter. We've had the great privilege of traveling to a number of cool places as well, at a personal level. And so when that sort of went away in the midst of COVID, we really looked for a change. And I was intending to go back and do a different type of consulting gig, and thankfully Kelly said to me, "You're probably not going to be happy doing that either. Let's go do what we've always talked about doing. Let's go open the brewery now." So this has become my COVID pivot, and so we're trying to bring in a lot of the cool experiences that we have from a travel perspective into what we brew and how we approach our welcoming atmosphere in the taproom.
Mm-hmm. And Kelly, what about you? You're part of this. Obviously, you've instigated and inspired. What were you doing before this, and how much has it changed? Are you guys both full time into this now? Is it all in on the tap room?
Well, I still have my day job, my corporate day job. I work as a consultant, so the day-to-day everything in the tap room is Chris. I do some of our social media stuff on the side and some weekend work there. But no, I've maintained my day job to keep things moving.
Kelly, I know you did a lot of travel too, and you were traveling for your job. Chris was traveling for his job, but you both traveled together as family. And what were some of the places that, at least in this initial, when you looked back and said, we're going to start this tap room and we want to incorporate, obviously we love beer.
Yep.
We love getting together with people and telling stories and hanging out.
Sure.
The travel part of it, how did that was that obvious to you? Was it something that you connected with right away and said, this is kind of going to be our thing, or how did you weave that in?
So travel has always been a part of our lives. I grew up traveling. When Chris and I met, we've taken a ton of trips. It's important to do it with our daughter, to us, for her to see the world and see different cultures. And part of what we love doing when we travel is going to the local bars, the local watering holes, getting a chance to really sit there and take in the community around you. It's always got the friendliest people. The staff are awesome, and it's an environment and vibe that lets you really feel that new place that you're in. So that has always resonated with us, and opening a place that people can do that here. And some of those first beers, inspired from places like Prague and Finland, Brazil, places that we went to, that whether it's the food or the style or whatever it may be of that culture really stuck out to us, and working with our brewer to bring that into what we put on draft.
And I can attest to this. And Jeff, I'll tell you, I've gone on one of these adventures several times with Chris and Kelly. And the last one I recall was we went to Cape. We were in the Cape Cod, and we went to visit Chris and Kelly while they were vacationing there. And we took our children and they took their daughter. We all got together and said, let's go out for lunch. We found a local watering hole. We went out back onto the patio and we sampled multiple of their beverages. And we spent like the entire afternoon eating and drinking and laughing and telling stories and, meandering about, watching the kids play and interact. And that is essentially, to me, that's what Local Time is all about. It's about people coming together and sharing time and sharing space and, just having a great time, right? Yeah. Fair to say?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, just taking a step back from the business part of it. Like, do you recall when you and where you kind of had that first craft brew that you're like, oh, this is different, right? I really like this. Like, in terms of taking that step to where you're at now in terms of what you're doing, what was the inspiration from that? Where did it start?
I think, Kelly and I actually met a couple of decades ago now, working at a bar in Boston.
Can we mention it?
Life.
That's right. And so, being around that environment has been there from the beginning. But I think coming down here actually to Carolina was a bit of the catalyst for really making that leap. Certainly had hit up some breweries back in New England, but the craft beer scene here in Carolina is quite significant. It's hard to throw a rock and not hit one. There's more than 400 craft breweries in the state. So a ton of great places to enjoy, and a ton that we've enjoyed going to as a couple and as a family. And so, enjoying that environment, and then having the thought and the belief that we could create our own unique environment that complemented what is already here, I think was a big part of the impetus to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too in terms of where, how popular it is there, beyond, the demand for it, so to speak, right? That's been built. Is there, in terms of a new business like yours, does North Carolina or even Holly Springs area, do they cater to what you're doing, and is it's sort of like in that maybe why there's so many of them?
I think so. I think there's a combination of factors, I think, that helps to bring the industry forward. One of the key ones is the climate, is the weather here. We can be out enjoying the outdoors for 8 to 10 months out of the year. So it's not necessarily as hot as, let's say, Florida, Texas, but it's certainly not as cold as back in New England. So I think the weather helps, from the standpoint of beer gardens and tap rooms in that standpoint.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and furthermore, particularly in our region of the state, there are so many transplants from all over the country, and so many families. So those demographics, I think, gravitate toward craft beer, the tap room setting, the ability to to meet other people from various parts of the country that have coalesced in one area, and to even give the family a chance to kick back for a few hours.
Yeah, and I've seen at least in terms of like, because I grew up and born in New England and all that, and it was always growing up when I was younger. It was always like, oh yeah, everybody moves to Florida,
Right.
and then all of a sudden, maybe a few decades ago, it was like, oh, there's the Carolinas too. So that has become more of like either people in New England move to Florida or they move to the Carolinas when they're ready to retire or to get a change of scenery, so to speak.
Chris and Kelly, do you guys, I think, to me, I think the answer is probably yes, somewhat. But the question being that, do you guys feel that you're kind of, which is interesting, because it's not always the case, you're kind of the target audience of your own, who your demographic would be, right? It's not always the case. And in knowing that, was there anything, though, that you learned in the course of starting this business and sort of investigating the area and who might be coming in that surprised you about your target demographic that you didn't really know they would be up for, into, or looking for?
I think that there are certain demographics that have already settled here, that have already maybe found their home in terms of their local place, and maybe they were never or unlikely to be looking for a new place. Certain people have wanted to stick with what they've been comfortable with all along and not necessarily looking for something new and different. But I would say that those that continue to be in our demographic are the ones looking for something new, looking for something that is represented in the not only the products that we create, but the taproom environment that we create. Those young families, those families that are anywhere between their mid-20s to their mid-50s, that often do have kids, but not exclusively. And I think that we've sort of gone out of our way to make the environment one that is representative of what they're looking for. We try to have a very a bright and clean environment. We produce products that are not too far afield from the common, let's say, lagers or IPAs, but they're at an expert quality level, even though they're not necessarily highly unique. So I think we're trying to speak to the market in those ways and bring in a lot of people that have moved to the area from that.
So as a business owner, and you both, your parents, your business owners, your people living on planet Earth, there's so many things going on. What do you do? And maybe you can answer this separately, individually, because there may be different causes or actions, reactions. What do you do when you feel overwhelmed or unfocused as a business owner?
Yeah. I think a big piece of that, right, is kind of figuring out which specific problem to tackle that day. I think, knowing everything, especially Chris is doing on a daily basis to keep things moving. There's, things happening today, tomorrow, next week, next month, for the year. And I think when things get overwhelming, it's kind of trying to figure out those top 3 priorities of the day of what do we need to get done? What's the biggest problem today that we need to solve to move things forward? And sometimes that changes. You show up to the brewery and there's something else happening, or the delivery was missed that you needed to brew today because every other schedule piece depends on that.
Yep.
So I think sometimes it's just, focusing on what you can control and what needs to get done and doing that and not letting everything else sort of overwhelm the brain at that moment.
No, I would totally agree with both of those key points there, right? It's about prioritization, time management, and it's especially about focusing on what you can control. There's so many things, not only in a business, but in life and generally, that you can't control. And spending an unnecessary, undue amount of time and energy and brain space on the things that you can't control send you in a downward spiral. So I try very hard to focus in on those things that we have control over, and then when it still is is overwhelming, try to mentally break where we can. I either will rely on Kelly to as a sounding board, or if even that's not enough, I'll go.
Yeah, we used to talk about because all businesses have to deal with things unexpected, and you have to make shifts, and you have to be flexible in certain times. And I always like to approach it with a little bit of levity, so that it's sort of like that's when the comedy comes in, because it's sort of like it kind of lightens the load a bit.
Yeah, and also what I think it'd be remiss if I didn't sort of mention surrounding yourself with good people. We have a very small staff. We're a small company. We're a small place, but the people that we do have are excellent at what they do. And so despite whatever challenges we might be facing on that day or that month or that year, knowing that the people that we're working with are on the same page with us and committed to helping the whole organization move forward, I think is critical as well.
Perfect. That leads now. First of all, editor's note. Let's just check the box that says they don't forest bathe to, unwind or refocus to get their heads back together. There's nothing goopy about that. But people, your people. You've surrounded yourself with great people. That's obvious, and I keep seeing through your social media feeds. You celebrate your workers, you celebrate your team. It is probably one of the trickiest things, at least I find in business, is finding and hiring and retaining really good people. And I mean, one of the people you guys have been working with, and it was critical to your business plan, was your master brewer. Can you talk a little bit about what you guys are doing to attract talent and get people in that are really share your vision? Because I think, would you agree that isn't that really that's really what makes businesses succeed, when you have employees who can share your vision and understand the importance and the critical roles that they play? How do you guys go about doing that?
Yeah, I think there has been a little bit of luck involved. I think that has to be admitted. But I think sharing what the vision is up front, and sharing where we're trying to go, what we're trying to accomplish, the fact that we really want to have an open and engaged environment, I think resonates with people, and knowing that they're not getting into a closed off situation, I think is important. And as it relates, specifically to our brewer, Devin, he and I met relatively early on in the process of getting everything up and going. And I think Kelly and I were able to share with him a lot of what our vision was, and based on where he was at in his career, that opportunity really resonated with him. The ability to be creative, the ability to not be micromanaged, the ability to be at the beginning of something, and that isn't for everyone, regardless of brewing or any industry. It takes a special, or at least a unique type of individual to want to get into business that is jumping off the ground. It's in some ways it's the most challenging, right? And it might be easier to join an organization that is long since established and there's processes, procedures, so on and so forth. And we knew, Kelly and I, that we were jumping into something that was brand new, and to find people that were that had some of that same mindset, and most critically, people like Devin, was very important from the beginning.
Well, that makes sense, and it's why you've reached it's why you've reached the year mark, the year anniversary. Congratulations! Yes. I mean, it's the
congrats.
people, and it's the setup and the product. and the processes that you have in place. So as far as leadership's concerned, you guys and I know full well with two daughters that, there's this leadership role at home to play, but then it's very different to the leadership role you play in the workspace, in corporate culture, or even your own business. If either one of you were to say there's a sound or a phrase that indicates poor leadership, or have you heard, have noticed and gone, oh my God, no. What does poor leadership sound like to you? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? When you sense poor leadership in the room and you go, oh God.
Yeah, I think it's, when I hear people say, I don't know, I was told to do that, or that people just say, that's what we've always done. Mm-hmm. That's a reflection from the top of how people are managing and not, empowering or inspiring employees to have independent thoughts or desire to do better or things like that. And I think we both appreciate our staff will come to us. They'll say, hey, I've been hearing this from customers, or I've noticed this. What do you think about doing this? And having people bring that to us, because our staff are the ones with our customers every day. And they're the ones that are telling us the most valuable feedback we can hear. So I'm happy that they bring these things to us so that we can act on them and do things. So I think if heard that would be a bad reflection on us.
That's a real key point, because I think you go in with best intentions in terms of the processes that you create. You're trying, you keep that door open, so to speak, so that they can communicate with you whatever's going on, the problems they may or challenges they may face. But you go in with the best intentions of the processes, and then sometimes the reality is slightly different. And so getting that feedback and then making the adjustments so that you're servicing the customers better, but you're also making it a more fun environment for the employees, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So everybody wins in the end when you have that kind of system in place.
I totally agree. I think Kelly hit it dead on. I also would say, as myself being there all the time, being there every day with our staff, I think it's also important to demonstrate humility on a regular basis. One way that I try and do that is to be asking questions, is to be okay with not being, the smartest person in the room on a given topic. That happens regularly on the brewing side, but it even happens on the front end side. Again, to Kel's point about our staff being the ones that are dealing with our customers even more frequently than I am. Being okay asking questions and of the staff to figure out what the best path forward is. And I think the other way in which you sort of lead with humility is lead by example, right? If the job needs to be done, and there's no one else but you to do it, go do it, and
right.
And people will follow you if you lead by example.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, what was the piece of advice, Chris and or Kelly, wish you had gotten when you first began the tap room? Was there a piece of advice you now know that you would go, oh, somebody should have said that to me? And it's not just about the tap room. It's about, the investment that goes on and going, I got to find property. I got to get property. I got to get this. I got to get that. Is there anything that you know now that you look back at and go,
pull in permits and things like that,
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think we can safely say don't build a brewery on top of a parking garage. You want a solid ground underneath you.
Okay.
Don't build one above a parking garage ever.
We would not repeat that decision.
Don't start a business when interest rates are about to double in the next year.
That would have been nice.
That would have been nice to have that crystal ball. Those are key, and also maybe perhaps most important, and this is cliche, but trust your gut, because there have been a couple of mistakes we've made where had we trusted our gut, we would have chosen differently. No parking garage, no interest rates, and trust your gut.
Trust your gut. Yes, I think
Awesome.
that all makes perfect sense. So, we're going to have to let you go sooner or later because I know you've got child retrieval to do, as do I. But a couple of last questions for you guys. One thing is that Jeff and I were talking earlier about, you guys serve a variety of refreshments, if you will, at Local Time Brewery. And it's not just the beers that you're creating on tap, but for the moment, now there's sort of some wine choices and there's some cider choices. As far as the beers that you guys are personally creating in-house, what's your favorite and why? Would you have a favorite right now, and what is it?
So my favorite all along has been the brown ale that we did. That was a seasonal beer that we created. So it's off draft now. Which is indicative of a lot of what we're trying to do. We have about 4 different things on draft that we try to always keep on, and everything else we do either seasonal or small batch. So during the holiday season, right around Thanksgiving, we brought out brown ale. Had cacao nibs and hazelnut flavor in it. It was delicious. So I was sad to see that one go off by the time we got to September. But that one has been definitely one of my favorites thus far.
How about you, Kelly?
Yeah, mine is our Vienna lager. It was one of the first beers that came out. It's now a permanent staple on the menu. And it's smooth, it's malty, it's got fantastic flavor. It's a great, drinking beer that you can just sip and enjoy. So that's remained my favorite.
And that one in particular that I mentioned, she won the brew won a silver medal actually.
Oh, nice!
Very good.
Yeah.
So, can you confirm or deny that the can, the label on that Vienna beer was well done, or something you deeply regret having?
It was beautifully done.
Beautifully crafted.
Cans, we love that. It's got the maps. It's showing where.
So you can Senator, you can confirm. Madam. Okay. The madam has the floor. All right. Last question for you guys, I think, because we do have those things, and I think it's really fascinating to hear a little bit more about where you guys have come from, especially knowing you so well at the beginning of your journey. And this is for both of you, and this could have anything to do with work. It could have to do with life on planet Earth and humanity as is, or where it's going. Chris, you first. If you could have a billboard put up anywhere in the world, and it could say anything at all, what would you want it to say?
It would have to be something about finding a way for us to pay more attention to our commonalities, our similarities, our shared humanity versus our differences. I think that's part of what we have had at the core of creating the business and looking out at the world, looking at the map, the globe, and saying, where can we draw our inspiration? Where can we leverage craft beer as the catalyst for making the world a little less divisive, a little smaller, a little less scary? So I don't necessarily know what my phrase would be on that billboard, but it would be taking that same concept that's at the core of who we are as a business and demonstrating that we're a whole lot more alike, and people, regardless of where you go on the globe, are still people, and the excessive divisiveness and fear is not to our advantage.
Nope.
Agreed. We're going to need a bigger billboard.
That's going to be a big billboard, right?
How about you, Kelly? Anything?
I know. I agree in concept. I think I just put something up that says, be
knock
nice.
It off.
Knock it off. Tell our daughter that every day. She thinks we're cool. I'm like, be nice.
Right.
Yeah, be nice.
Be nice to people. I mean, you see everything in the news, and so much of it is just it's crazy, So
I'd love to say, leave our audience with some parting knowledge or anything you want to tell anybody. I don't know that we have an audience yet, but we will. Is there anything you guys want to share with us aside from, if you happen to be in the Holly Springs area, the place is called Local Time Brewing. The website is localtimebrewing.com. We're talking to Chris and Kelly, the owners and founders of this establishment, and it is certainly somewhere you want to go visit, check out online, check out the merch, check out what they're doing. Great story, great things. Anything else that you'd like to leave with anybody for the day?
No, I think you said it right there. Anyone that's in the area, come on by. We're doing a lot of work to grow our footprint outside of the tap room through self-distribution. So even if you don't make it directly to the tap room, you might find us throughout Central Carolina as these coming months go on.
Nice.
Perfect. Oh, last thing. What do you guys think about this whole non-alcoholic movement that's going on? Do you see legs in this, or do you know?
Yes, we do. That is a real trend. For instance, we have a number of different groups that come in on a regular basis to the tap room. They have their weekly meetings or weekly meetups, and there's a couple of groups that really angled for us to do more on the non-alcoholic side, and we have to respond to that. We don't necessarily brew anything yet non-alcoholic of our own, but we make sure we stock it, because that is something real. People are looking to still have the same enjoyment in the environment, but not necessarily the alcohol and what can come with that.
Yeah, we've been really following that category. Obviously Athletic is the brand that's kind of like emerging, but everybody's kind of following with that. I think it just gives people more options, right?
Yes,
and that's great. It's always great to have that experience. And if you're choosing non-alcoholic, you can still have the same experience.
Totally.
Again, Chris, Kelly, thank you for giving us your time today.
Thank you so much.
It's Local Time Brewery. It's in Holly Springs, North Carolina. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of 1/7 the podcast, brought to you by Chilk and Brandartica Agency. If you enjoyed today's show, please punch the like button, follow, or subscribe to our channel. Leave us a review, because your feedback helps us grow and reach more listeners. Don't forget to visit drinkchilk.com to find out more about the dairy and chicken combination drink everybody's talking about, or visit 1/7th.com. That's the number 1 followed by 7th spelled out.com to discover more about our content and stay updated on the latest from 1/7 the podcast. Until next time, I'm Peter Jude Ricciardi. You're not, and thank you for listening.